Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Perfect Lie. Ben McCarthy had built his life on patterns. As a forensic accountant who'd helped the FBI dismantle 3 major fraud rings, he understood that chaos always left traces. Numbers never lied. People did. His daughter Neva didn't. That's why, on a humid Tuesday in July, when 9-year-old Neva didn't come home from her piano lesson, Ben's instincts fired like warning flares. His wife Martha stood in their kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, mascara streaming down her face as she sobbed to the 911 operator. "My baby's missing," Martha wailed. "She never came home. Someone took her." Ben watched his wife's performance with a peculiar detachment. In their 12 years of marriage, he'd seen Martha cry exactly 4 times. At her mother's funeral, at Neva's birth, when her gallery went bankrupt, and once during an argument about her spending habits. Each time, the tears had been controlled, almost elegant. This was different. This was theatrical. "Mrs. McCarthy, when did you last see your daughter?" The detective, a weathered woman named Santos, sat across from them in their living room. "I dropped her at Westfield Music Academy at 4 o'clock, Martha said, dabbing her eyes. "Her teacher, Mrs. Chun, she always walks the kids out. But when I got there at 5:30, Mrs. Chun said Neva left early. Said a woman claiming to be me picked her up at 4:45. Ben's jaw tightened. "What woman?" "Mrs. Chun said she wore sunglasses and a headscarf. She had the family password." Martha's voice cracked perfectly. "Butterfly. How would anyone know that?" Ben stood, pacing to the window. His reflection stared back at him. 36 years old, with a lean build of someone who channeled stress into morning runs. His brother Miles said he had accountant eyes, sharp, always calculating. Right now, those eyes were tracking every detail. "Only 3 people know that password," Ben said quietly. "You, me, and Neva." Detective Santos made a note. "Has your daughter seemed worried lately? Any behavior changes?" "No," Martha said quickly. "She's been perfect, happy, normal." Ben thought of last week, when Neva had stood in the doorway of his home office, her small face troubled. "Daddy, if someone does something bad but says they love you, are they lying?" He'd assumed she meant a friend at school. Now, ice crystallized in his veins. "Mr. McCarthy?" Santos was looking at him. "She asked me a strange question last week," Ben said, watching Martha stiffen. "About whether people who love you can still hurt you." Martha's hand trembled as she set down her water glass. She probably meant that girl who pushed her on the playground. Probably. Ben held his wife's gaze, though she never mentioned being pushed. The search consumed 3 days. Volunteers combed parks. News crews camped on their lawn. Ben barely slept, coordinating with police, tracking leads, analyzing phone records. His brother Miles moved in to help, bringing food, handling reporters. Martha was the picture of devastated motherhood, until Ben walked in on her smiling at her phone on day 2. "Any news?" he'd asked. She jumped, screen going dark. "Just a friend offering support." "Which friend?" "You don't know her." Martha's smile was ash. "Someone from my gallery days." Ben had built his career on noticing what didn't fit. Martha had closed her gallery 2 years ago, cut ties with that world completely. She claimed she wanted a fresh start, to focus on family. On the evening of the 3rd day, as the sun bled orange across their lawn, a car pulled up. The rear door opened. Neva climbed out. Ben reached her first, dropping to his knees, hands shaking as he touched her face, her arms, confirming she was real. "Baby, are you hurt? Who took you?" Neva's eyes, dark like his own, held something he'd never seen before. Not fear, certainty. "I'm okay, Daddy." Her voice was steady, too steady for a 9-year-old who'd been missing for 3 days. "They didn't hurt me." "Who's they?" Detective Santos crouched beside them. Neva looked past Ben to where Martha stood on the porch, one hand pressed to her mouth. When Neva's gaze returned to Ben, she pressed something into his palm. A folded piece of paper. "I want to go inside and sleep," Neva said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then, barely a whisper, "Read it alone." Ben palmed the note as Martha swept Neva into an embrace that looked, to everyone else, like maternal relief. Only Ben noticed how Neva's body stayed rigid, how her eyes stayed open and alert over Martha's shoulder. That night, after Neva was bathed and fed and supposedly sleeping, after Miles had gone home and the last news van had departed, Ben sat in the dark living room. Martha had taken a sleeping pill, her breathing deep and rhythmic in their bedroom. He unfolded the note. Neva's careful handwriting, the letters she'd practiced so diligently. Don't trust Mom. Check our dustbin tonight at midnight. Come alone. Ben read it 3 times. His daughter's words. His daughter, who'd inherited his ability to see patterns, to notice what others missed. He checked his watch. 11:47 p.m. At 11:59, Ben stepped into the garage. The motion light flickered on. Their dustbin sat in the corner, a large, rarely used container they kept for yard waste. He'd taken it out just yesterday. It should be empty. It wasn't. Midnight struck as Ben lifted the lid. Inside, beneath a thin layer of grass clippings, was a black garbage bag. Inside that bag, a box of rat poison with the safety seal broken, a bottle of antifreeze, a printed life insurance policy with his name on it, $2 million dated 6 months ago, and a burner phone. Ben's hands were steady as he powered on the phone. One text conversation with a contact labeled R. Martha, he suspects nothing. Another month and we'll be free. R, you said that last month. The poison isn't working fast enough. Martha, small doses. It looks like a heart condition. The doctor already noted his elevated heart rate and fatigue. R, the kid's getting suspicious. Martha, leave Neva to me. She's 9. Who believe her? R, she's smart like her father. That's the problem. Martha, then maybe we need a different solution. If something happened to her, an accident, Ben would be destroyed. Easy to finish him off after. R, you'd kill your own daughter? Martha, she's Ben's daughter. I've never felt anything for her. Let's meet tomorrow. The cabin. We'll figure this out. The last message had come 3 days ago, hours before Neva disappeared. Ben's heart hammered, but his mind was crystalline. The pieces assembled themselves like a forensic report. Martha had been poisoning him. The unexplained fatigue, the heart palpitations his doctor couldn't explain, symptoms that had started exactly 6 months ago. The timeline matched the insurance policy. She had a partner, R, someone she trusted enough to plan murder with. And Neva, brilliant, observant Neva, had figured it out. She'd found the burner phone, read the messages, and somehow staged her own disappearance to get evidence to him safely. Ben photographed everything with his personal phone, uploaded it to 3 separate cloud accounts, then carefully returned everything to the dustbin exactly as he'd found it. His wife wanted him dead. She'd been willing to kill their daughter. As Ben walked back into the house, a cold clarity settled over him. Martha had taught him something valuable in their years together. The best cons worked because the mark never saw them coming. Time to become invisible. Time to show Martha McCarthy what happened when you underestimated an accountant with nothing left to lose. Chapter 2. The Invisible Thread. Ben didn't sleep. Sleep was a luxury for men who hadn't discovered their wives planning their murder. Instead, he sat in his home office, door locked, running searches. The burner phone had given him a number for R, through a contact he'd cultivated during his FBI days, a telecommunications analyst who owed him for finding her embezzling brother before the feds did. Ben had the number traced by dawn. Registered to a Royce Matthews. Address, 847 Pine Street, the neighboring town. Ben pulled up Royce's social media. 34. Worked as a personal trainer at an upscale gym. Photos showed a man with calculated charm, expensive haircut, teeth too white, that practiced smile of someone who'd learned to weaponize attraction. Then Ben found it. A photo from 14 months ago. Royce at a gallery opening, arm around a woman. The caption, supporting local art with this beautiful curator. The woman was Martha. Ben's jaw clenched. 14 months. His wife had been planning this for over a year, slow poisoning him while playing the devoted spouse. The sheer patience of it would have been impressive if it wasn't aimed at putting him in the ground. A soft knock startled him. Daddy. Neva slipped inside, closing the door behind her. In the morning light, she looked impossibly small in her butterfly pajamas, but her eyes held that same eerie calm from last night. "Did you find it?" she whispered. Ben pulled her into his lap, arms tight around her. "I found it, baby. You were so brave. Can you tell me what happened?" Neva's hands twisted in her lap. 3 weeks ago, I got up for water. I heard Mom on the phone in the garage. She was laughing, saying you'd probably die in your sleep soon, that the doctor already thought you had heart problems. Ben's chest tightened. "Why didn't you tell me then?" "I tried." Neva's voice cracked. "Remember? I asked if people who love you can hurt you, but you thought I meant school, and Mom was right there and I—" She took a shaky breath. "I got scared, so I started looking for proof." "Where did you find the phone?" "In Mom's jewelry box, under the fake bottom. I'd seen her hiding it before." Neva looked up at him. "I read the messages. All of them. Daddy, they were going to—" She couldn't finish. "I know." Ben kissed her forehead. "But I need to understand what happened these last 3 days. The truth." Neva's shoulders straightened, that strange composure returning. "I knew they were meeting at the cabin. I asked Mom about cabins once, casually, and she got weird. Then I heard her tell you she was going to her book club last Thursday. But I checked her book club online. They don't meet in summer." Ben stared at his 9-year-old daughter with a mixture of horror and awe. "So you—" "I hid a GPS tracker from your desk in her purse. Followed it on my old tablet." Neva pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. She went to Lake Morrison. "There's only one cabin rental there. The manager's number is on their website. I called from a friend's phone, pretended to be doing a school project about local businesses. Asked if they had clients with a last name Matthews. The lady said yes. Mr. Matthews rented cabin 7 every Thursday." "Jesus, Neva." Ben's voice was strangled. "That was incredibly dangerous and incredibly smart. But the disappearance. I knew they'd stage something eventually. Mom kept talking about accidents in the messages." Neva's hands fisted in her pajamas. "So I decided to disappear first. Make it look scary enough that you'd listen when I told you the truth." "How did you?" "Mrs. Chun at piano? Her daughter Lily is my friend. I told Lily my parents were planning a surprise investigation, like a detective game, and I needed to hide for a few days. Lily thought it was cool. Her mom agreed to say someone picked me up early, and I stayed in their basement. I told them I'd text you the truth after a few days, that it was all pretend." The audacity of it, the sheer calculated risk. Ben didn't know whether to ground her forever or hire her as a consultant. "The note was your proof," Ben said. "You knew I'd find everything. I knew if I just told you, Mom might talk her way out of it. You always give people the benefit of doubt." Neva's eyes hardened. "But poison and messages about killing us? That's evidence. Like you always say, numbers don't lie, and neither does proof." Ben held his daughter tight, feeling the weight of what she'd carried alone. "I'm going to fix this. But I need you to be normal today, okay? Around Mom, around everyone. Can you do that?" "I've been doing it for weeks." The brittleness in her voice broke his heart. "What are you going to do?" Ben thought of Martha downstairs, probably still sleeping off her fake grief. Thought of Royce Matthews, sitting in his apartment, believing he'd gotten away with conspiracy to murder. "I'm going to make them confess," Ben said quietly. "I'm going to record everything they've done, and then I'm going to make sure they pay for it in a way they'll never forget." "Will they go to jail?" "Eventually." Ben's smile was cold. "But first, they're going to tear each other apart." Over the next week, Ben became a ghost in his own life. He played the worried father, the relieved husband, the man grateful to have his family intact. Meanwhile, he was building a case that would make his FBI contacts weep with envy. He started with the poison. A discreet blood test at a private clinic confirmed elevated levels of arsenic and ethylene glycol, antifreeze. Chronic, low-dose exposure over 6 months. Enough to cause the symptoms his doctor had attributed to stress, fatigue, heart palpitations, confusion, nausea. His doctor, thinking Ben was concerned about environmental exposure, documented everything with clinical precision. Medical proof of poisoning, dated and signed. Next, Ben hired a private investigator. Not local, someone from 3 states over with no connection to anyone in his life. Within 72 hours, he had photos. Martha and Royce at the Lake Morrison cabin, kissing on the porch. Martha entering Royce's apartment building 3 times in 1 week. Royce buying flowers at the same shop where Ben bought Martha's birthday roses. But evidence of an affair wasn't enough. Ben needed them on record planning murder. That's where things got creative. Ben's specialty was forensic accounting, but his real talent was understanding human weakness. Greed, especially, and paranoia. Royce Matthews lived beyond his means. The social media photos showed expensive watches, designer gym clothes, a lifestyle his personal trainer salary couldn't support. Ben dug deeper. Credit card debt of $47,000. Car lease about to default. Behind the Instagram facade was a man drowning. Martha had money, her trust fund, which she'd lied to Ben about depleting. He'd discovered the truth 6 months ago, but said nothing, curious about why she'd lied. Now he understood. She'd been funneling money to Royce, keeping him dependent. Ben created an anonymous email account and sent Royce a message. I know what you and Martha are planning. I have proof. If you want to avoid prison, we need to talk. Come alone to parking lot C at Riverside Park, 9 p.m. Friday. I'll be in a black sedan. Don't tell Martha, or the deal's off. He wasn't going to show up. But Royce didn't know that. The beauty of paranoia was watching it metastasize. Ben placed a voice-activated recorder under the bench in the park. A calculated risk, but at 9 p.m. on a Friday, the area would be deserted. Then he drove to a hilltop overlook with perfect view of the parking lot and waited with binoculars. At 8:55, Royce's Mustang pulled in. The man sat there for 20 minutes, checking his phone, scanning the lot. At 9:17, he made a call. Ben's secondary phone, one he'd set up to forward calls from Martha's number, rang. He let it go to a recording app. It's me. Royce's voice was tight. We have a problem. What problem? Martha, annoyed. Ben pictured her at her book club, the one that actually met now that Neva was home safe. Someone knows. I got an email saying they have proof, wanted to meet tonight. I'm at the park, but no one showed. Silence. Then, it's a trap. Someone's trying to spook us. What if it's him? What if Ben knows? Impossible. He's an accountant, not a detective. And he's still sick. I checked his pill organizer today. The poison's working. Then who? I don't know, but we can't panic. Martha's voice turned calculating. Did you bring the burner phone? No. I left it at the cabin like you said. Good. Go there now. Get rid of it and anything else. Burn it all. We stay calm, stick to the plan. After Ben dies, and the way he looks, that's maybe 2 more months. We wait a respectful year, then slowly start seeing each other publicly. By then, any investigation will be cold. And if he doesn't die, if the poison just makes him sick, Martha's laugh was ice. Then we move to plan B, carbon monoxide leak. Everyone's asleep, tragic accident. The whole family goes. Jesus, Martha, you don't have the stomach for this? Because I can find someone who does. Someone who won't leave me with debt and constant demands for money. I love you. You love my bank account. But that's fine. I love your abs and your willingness to do what's necessary. We're partners, baby. Now go to the cabin. Clean house. Text me when it's done. The call ended. Ben lowered his phone, hands steady despite the white-hot rage coursing through him. The voice recorder under the bench would have caught Royce's side of the conversation, enough for reasonable suspicion. The phone recording caught Martha's side, conspiracy to commit murder, admission of ongoing poisoning, threats to kill the entire family. Combined with the evidence Neva had found, the medical reports, the PI photos, and the insurance policy, Ben had enough to bury them both. But he wasn't ready yet, because Ben McCarthy hadn't spent years dismantling fraud rings by going to the police immediately. He'd learned that the most satisfying wins came from watching criminals destroy themselves. And he had a plan that would do exactly that. Chapter 3, The Architect's Hand. Saturday morning, Ben made coffee with hands that didn't shake. Across the kitchen table, Martha scrolled through her phone, smiling at something. Probably Royce's text confirming he'd burned the evidence. Evidence Ben had already photographed and documented. The burner phone was currently in a safe deposit box at a bank 3 towns over, along with copies of everything else. You seem better, Martha said, not looking up. More energetic. Switched multivitamins. Ben sipped his coffee from a bottle he'd secured with a lock, kept in his office. He'd been swapping out Martha's poisoned food for safe alternatives for days, secretly disposing of anything she prepared for him. I think the old ones weren't agreeing with me. Martha's smile flickered. That's good, honey. You've been so tired lately. I have, haven't I? Ben set down his mug. Weird how it started around the same time you got that new life insurance policy on me. The one I didn't know about until the agent called to confirm details. Martha's knuckles whitened on her phone. I wanted to surprise you. With the coverage. For our future. $2 million is quite a surprise. You're the breadwinner. It made sense. Her voice was steady, but Ben caught the calculation in her eyes, wondering what he knew, how to play this. You're right. Ben stood, kissed her forehead. She flinched just barely. I'm going to take Neva out today. Father-daughter time. She's been through a lot. Where? The Science Museum. She's been asking. Relief washed over Martha's face. A whole day without her husband and daughter at home. A whole day to call Royce, to plan, to strategize. Perfect. That sounds wonderful. I'll catch up on things here. Ben collected Neva, who'd been waiting in her room, backpack ready. She'd been sleeping in her room with the door locked, a chair wedged under the handle. Ben had installed a security camera aimed at her door, monitoring from his phone. No one was getting to his daughter. In the car, Neva spoke quietly. You're going to do it today? Phase 1. Ben glanced at her in the rearview mirror. You ready to be a normal 9-year-old for a while? No more detective work. Is she going to jail? Eventually. But first, I need to make sure the case is airtight. And Ben's jaw set. I need her to understand exactly what she tried to do. What she almost did. Good. Neva's voice was small but fierce. She should understand. They didn't go to the Science Museum. Instead, Ben drove to his brother Miles's house. Miles opened the door in workout clothes, surprise shifting to concern when he saw Ben's expression. I need you to keep Neva for the weekend, Ben said. And I need you to not ask questions yet. Miles studied his younger brother. They'd always been close. Miles had raised Ben after their parents died in a car crash when Ben was 15. He knew Ben's tells, his patterns. How bad? Miles asked quietly. Bad enough that Neva can't be home. But I have it handled. Miles looked at Neva, who met his gaze steadily. Too steadily for a kid her age. Whatever had happened, his niece had grown up fast. Okay. Miles stepped aside. But Ben, whatever you're doing, it's legal, Ben said. Mostly true. And necessary. Completely true. With Neva's safe, Ben drove to the county clerk's office. Using his FBI credentials, he was still technically a consultant. He pulled property records. The Lake Morrison cabin was owned by a rental company, but Royce Matthews had a long-term lease agreement. 12 months, renewable. Interesting. A personal trainer couldn't afford that, but a woman siphoning money from her trust fund could. Ben drove to Lake Morrison. The cabin was isolated, surrounded by pines, invisible from the main road. Perfect for assignations and murder planning. Ben parked a quarter-mile away and approached on foot. The cabin was empty. He confirmed Royce's gym schedule, knew he'd be teaching spin class until 3. Ben picked the lock, a skill from his FBI days, and entered. The interior was sparse. Bedroom, kitchenette, sitting area. Ben moved methodically, photographing everything. He found Martha's earring under the bed. A bottle of wine with 2 glasses, one marked with her lipstick shade. Receipts for dinners, hidden in a drawer. And jackpot, a laptop hidden in a vent panel. Password protected, but Ben had tools for that. 20 minutes later, he was in. Email drafts between Royce and Martha. Never sent, just saved as a secret communication method. Ben's doctor ordered cardiac tests. They're getting concerned. We need to back off the antifreeze. We've invested 6 months. If we stop now and he recovers, it's all for nothing. If we don't stop and they find traces, it's life in prison. Then we use plan B. The carbon monoxide. I can rig the furnace. Winter is 5 months away. So we wait. Or we think of something else. What about a car accident? Brake line? Too suspicious after Neva's disappearance. Everyone's watching us. Ben downloaded everything onto an encrypted drive. Then he placed his own insurance, a keylogger program, invisible, that would send him copies of every keystroke on this laptop. Anything they planned from here forward, he'd know. But the real coup was in the bedroom closet, a locked safe. Ben cracked it, another FBI skill, and found $70,000 in cash. Martha's money, obviously, being kept here, away from their joint accounts, ready for the escape. Ben photographed the money, but left it untouched. He added something else, a GPS tracker embedded in the stack. Wherever this money went, he'd know. He was locking up when his phone buzzed. The voice-activated recorder he'd hidden in his own home office, because if Martha was planning murder, she'd make calls from the safest place she knew, had picked up something. Ben played the recording. Martha's voice. It's me. We have a new problem. Royce, what now? Ben asked about the life insurance. He knows. Shit. What did you say? That I wanted to surprise him with coverage. He seemed to buy it, but Martha's voice tightened. He's not dying fast enough. He's getting stronger. I checked his vitamin bottle. It's a different brand. New bottle, still sealed. He switched them. Why would he? I don't know. Maybe his doctor recommended change. Maybe he's getting suspicious. Pause. We need to accelerate. Ow! The carbon monoxide plan. But not winter. This week. Martha, it's the only way. Ben's smart. If he's suspicious, he'll start looking. We do this now, or we lose everything. Silence. Then Royce's voice, uncertain now. You're good with your hands. You fix the furnace to leak tonight. I'll make sure Ben and Neva are home and asleep by 10. Pills in their drinks. They won't wake up. Come morning, tragic accident. Whole family. I'm the only survivor. You'd kill Neva too? She's a liability. Martha's voice was flat. She found a phone once. She could find other things. And honestly, I never wanted kids. Being a mother was Ben's dream, not mine. The recording ended. Ben sat in his car, breathing carefully. This was it. Premeditated murder planned for tonight. He had recordings, evidence, everything. He could go to the police now in this. But that wasn't enough. Because Ben needed Martha and Royce to understand, really understand, what happened when you underestimated someone. When you thought kindness meant weakness. When you mistook patience for ignorance. He made 3 calls. First, to Detective Santos. I need to talk to you about new information regarding Neva's disappearance. Can you come to my house tomorrow at 9 a.m.? It's important. Second, to his lawyer. I need you to prepare emergency custody paperwork. Full custody, restraining order, the works. I'll explain tomorrow. Third, to a number he hadn't called in 5 years. His old FBI partner, now with the Organized Crime Division. I need a favor, and a wire. By the time Ben drove home, the sun was setting. Martha was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She smiled at him, warm and loving, the perfect wife. Where's Neva? Sleepover at Miles's. She wanted to spend time with her uncle. Ben watched Martha's eyes light up. Even better. Only one target to handle tonight. That's nice. I made your favorite, lasagna. Wonderful. Ben smiled back. I'll eat well tonight. Chapter 4, The Wire. Ben ate none of the lasagna. While Martha was in the bathroom, he scraped his portion into a Ziploc bag, replaced it with an identical serving from a container Miles had prepared, then sealed the bag for toxicology testing. The pills Martha had crushed into his wine. He'd seen her do it through the reflection in the kitchen window. He'd extracted with a careful pour into his prepared glass, substituting non-drugged wine from his locked office supply. At 9:47 p.m., Ben slumped dramatically on the couch. I don't feel well. I'm exhausted. Martha appeared, concern painted on her face. Maybe you should sleep. I'll clean up. Yeah. Ben let his words slur. Good idea. He climbed the stairs slowly, heavily, the performance of a man drugged. In the bedroom, he arranged pillows under the covers, his form barely visible in the dark. Then he slipped into the walk-in closet, where he'd prepared hours ago. Laptop open, cameras positioned, FBI-grade wire taped to his chest. At 10:23 p.m., he heard the garage door. Footsteps. Royce Matthews had entered his home. Through the crack in the closet door, Ben watched as Martha led Royce to the bedroom. She pressed a finger to her lips, pointed at the sleeping form in bed. He's out, Royce whispered. Like a light. Martha's smile was predatory. I used 3 pills. He'll sleep through anything. They moved to the basement. Ben followed silently, 1 floor up, listening through the vent system. Furnace is here, Martha was saying. Can you make it look like a malfunction? Yeah. Royce's voice echoed. Disconnect the carbon monoxide detector, block the exhaust vent, crack the heat exchanger. Gas fills the house in about 2 hours. At the levels this will produce, he'll be dead by dawn. And it'll look like an accident. Old furnace, tragic malfunction. Happens every winter. They'll blame the property inspector, maybe the manufacturer. You'll be the grieving widow. How long until you can do it? 20 minutes. But Martha, Royce hesitated. Are you sure? This is murder. Actual, irreversible murder. You're developing a conscience now. Martha's laugh was cold. You're the one who suggested the antifreeze. You're the one who said brake lines. Don't pretend to be noble. I know, but nothing. We're in this together. You want our debt? You want the life we've planned? Then do your job and fix the fucking furnace. Silence. Then the sound of tools. Ben recorded every word. In his pocket, his phone was live streaming to 3 separate cloud servers and directly to his FBI contact secure line. Whatever happened now, the evidence was ironclad. But he wasn't done. At 10:51 p.m., Ben emerged from his hiding spot. He walked downstairs, each step deliberate. He paused at the basement door, listening to Royce work, Martha supervising. Then he turned on every light in the house. Martha, he called, voice clear and strong. Can you come here? We need to talk. The scrambling from the basement was almost comical. Royce swearing, Martha hissing orders. Ben stood in the living room, arms crossed as they emerged. Martha's face was a mask of shock. Ben, you're awake. You should be. Drug. Ben pulled the wine glass from his pocket, still containing the crushed pills. These drugs. I saw you put them in. Didn't drink the wine. Didn't eat the lasagna either. I'll have both tested tomorrow, though I'm betting we'll find enough sedatives to knock out a horse. Martha's mouth opened, closed. Royce had gone pale, tool belt still hanging from his waist. Let me guess, Ben continued conversationally. Royce here was about to rig the furnace. Carbon monoxide poisoning. I'd be dead by morning. Tragic accident. Grieving widow collects $2 million and runs off with her personal trainer boyfriend. How am I doing? Ben, I can explain. Martha started. Can you explain why you've been poisoning me for 6 months? Ben's voice was surgical. Or why you plan to murder our daughter. Or why you staged her kidnapping to scare her into silence when she discovered your affair. I never. Stop. The word cracked like a whip. I have recordings, Martha. Everything. Your phone calls. Your messages. Your email drafts on a laptop at the cabin. 6 months of evidence. All documented. All time-stamped. Royce bolted for the door. Ben didn't move. Outside, police sirens wailed to life. The house was suddenly bathed in blue and red. I called them 30 minutes ago, Ben said. Told them I had evidence of an attempted murder in progress. They've been waiting outside, listening on the wire I'm wearing. He pulled aside his shirt collar, showing the device. Martha's face crumpled. Not with remorse, with rage. You bastard. You fucking bastard. Do you know what you've done? Saved my life? Protected my daughter? Ben's eyes were ice. Yeah, I know exactly what I've done. The door burst open. Detective Santos entered with 4 officers, guns drawn. Royce Matthews, Martha McCarthy, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and assault with a deadly weapon. As the officers cuffed them, Martha twisted toward Ben. This isn't over. I have money. Lawyers. You'll never. Your trust fund. Ben smiled without warmth. I froze it this morning. Emergency court order based on evidence of you using it for criminal activity. Every account, every asset. You're broke, Martha. You'll get a public defender. Her scream was inarticulate fury. Royce was crying. I didn't want to do it. She made me. She said we'd lose everything. Save it for your lawyer, Santos said, hauling him out. When they were gone, the house suddenly quiet. Ben sat heavily on the couch. His hand was shaking now, adrenaline crashing. He'd done it. They were arrested. Neva was safe. But the fury, the cold, calculating fury, hadn't left. because legal justice was one thing, but Ben wanted something more. He wanted them to understand exactly what they'd lost, what they destroyed, and what happened when you tried to kill a man who'd spent his career understanding the precise mechanics of human greed. Chapter 5. The Price of Greed. The arraignment was a circus. News crews packed the courthouse, their cameras trained on Martha McCarthy, the beautiful woman accused of trying to murder her family. She arrived in an orange jumpsuit, no makeup, hair tangled. The transformation from elegant wife to desperate criminal was stark. Ben sat in the gallery with Neva and Miles. His daughter gripped his hand, her small frame tense as Martha was led in. "Daddy, she looks different," Neva whispered. "She is different," Ben replied. "We're seeing who she really is now." Martha's public defender, a harried young man named Gordon Jimenez who'd clearly pulled the short straw at his office, tried to argue for bail. "Your Honor, Mrs. McCarthy has no prior record, strong community ties. She's accused of poisoning her husband over 6 months and attempting to kill him and her daughter via carbon monoxide," the judge interrupted. "She has significant financial resources." Actually, the prosecutor interjected, "Those resources have been frozen pending civil litigation. Mr. McCarthy has filed for emergency custody and divorce. Mrs. McCarthy has approximately $300 to her name." Martha's head snapped up, hatred burning in her eyes as she found Ben in the crowd. "Bail is denied." The judge's gavel fell. Given the severity of the charges and the ongoing threat to the victims, the defendant will be held without bail pending trial. As Martha was led away, she twisted in her restraints. Ben, please, we can talk about this. I made mistakes, but we can fix." The door closed on her pleading. Royce Matthews' arraignment was next. He shuffled in, shoulders slumped, the confident personal trainer persona completely shattered. His lawyer, a semi-competent private attorney his parents had mortgaged their house to afford, made a desperate play. "Your Honor, my client was coerced. Mrs. McCarthy manipulated him, used their relationship to. Your client brought tools to dismantle a furnace with intent to commit murder," the prosecutor said flatly. He was recorded explaining exactly how he'd caused carbon monoxide poisoning. "There's no coercion here, just conspiracy." Bail was set at $1 million. Royce's mother sobbed in the front row. They couldn't make it. He'd rot in county jail until trial. As they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Ben pulled Neva close, Miles running interference. One reporter shoved a microphone in Ben's face. "Mr. McCarthy, how does it feel knowing your wife tried to kill you?" Ben stopped, looked directly at the camera. "It feels like justice is finally catching up with someone who thought she could get away with murder because her husband was too kind to notice. She was wrong." The clip went viral within hours. Back home, Ben began dismantling Martha's life with the same precision she'd tried to use, ending his. The trust fund was easy. With evidence of criminal activity, the trustees froze the account pending resolution. Martha had been receiving $10,000 monthly. That spigot was shut off. Next, Ben filed for divorce. His lawyer, a shark named Berta Mayer who specialized in high-conflict cases, went nuclear. Full custody of Neva, restraining order, division of assets with Ben claiming Martha's share due to her attempt on his life. In cases of attempted spousal murder, many states had clauses that prevented the guilty party from benefiting from marital assets. "She'll fight this," Berta warned. "Even from jail. Let her." Ben's smile was grim. "Every legal fee, every motion, it drains what little resources she has left. Her parents are dead. No siblings, no rich friends left from her gallery days. She burns money fighting me. She has less for her defense." Cold. Berta looked impressed. "I like it." Ben also discovered something interesting while digging through Martha's financial records. She'd been embezzling from her own gallery before it closed. Small amounts, hidden in creative bookkeeping. Not enough to prosecute back then, but enough to show a pattern of financial dishonesty. He handed that information to the IRS. Within a week, Martha had a tax audit pending, dating back 7 years. Even if she beat the murder charges, and she wouldn't, but hypothetically, she'd face years of financial penalties and potential fraud charges. But Ben's masterpiece was Royce Matthews. See, Royce's legal strategy hinged on painting himself as a victim, manipulated by an older, wealthier woman. His lawyer was building a case that Martha was the mastermind, Royce just a pawn. Ben made sure that narrative collapsed. He reached out to Royce's ex-girlfriend, a woman named Felicia Vincent who'd filed a restraining order against him 3 years ago. Ben offered to pay her legal fees to testify about Royce's controlling behavior, his obsession with money, his willingness to lie and manipulate. Felicia jumped at the chance. He told me once that he'd do anything for the right payday, she said in her deposition. He was obsessed with get-rich-quick schemes. When I told him that scared me, he got violent. Ben found 2 other women with similar stories. By the time he was done, Royce Matthews looked less like a manipulated victim and more like a calculated predator who'd found a perfect Mark and Martha. The prosecutors loved it. Their case went from strong to bulletproof. 3 weeks after the arrest, Ben received a call from Gordon Jimenez, Martha's lawyer. "Mr. McCarthy, my client would like to speak with you." "No," she says, "she has information you'd want to know." "About the case." Ben paused. "What kind of information?" "She wouldn't tell me. Just said." Gordon sighed. "She said to tell you it's about why she really did it, and that you want to know." Against his better judgment, Ben agreed to a supervised meeting at the jail. Martha looked worse. Thinner, hollowed out, the orange jumpsuit hanging off her frame. When Ben sat across from her, separated by plexiglass, she tried to smile. It cracked halfway. "Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes." Ben's voice was granite. "Talk." Martha's hands twisted in her lap. "I need you to understand, this wasn't about you. It was never personal. You tried to kill me. How much more personal does it get?" "No, I mean," she took a breath. "I never loved you, Ben. I'm sorry, but it's true. I married you because you were safe, stable. After my gallery failed, after my mother died, I needed stability. You gave me that, and that made me expendable. I met Royce a year after we married, at a fundraiser. He was exciting, dangerous, everything you weren't." Martha's eyes were distant. "We started the affair, and at first it was just fun. But then I realized I'd married the wrong man. I wanted excitement, not stability. Money I controlled, not joint accounts. Freedom. So you decided to murder me instead of just divorcing me." "The prenup." Martha's laugh was bitter. "You insisted on it, remember? If we divorced, I got nothing. The house was yours before we married. Most assets were yours. The trust fund was mine, but I burned through half of it on the gallery. A divorce meant starting over with scraps. So it was money. It was freedom and money." Martha met his eyes. "With you dead, I got the life insurance, the house, everything. Royce and I could disappear, start over. Live the life I actually wanted." Ben stared at her. "And Neva? What was she?" "Collateral damage." Martha's face hardened. "I never wanted children. You did. You pushed for it, said it would complete our family. I went along because that's what wives do. But I never bonded with her. She was your daughter, not mine. The casual cruelty of it, the sheer sociopathic disconnect, left Ben breathless. You're a monster. I'm honest." Martha leaned forward. "And here's the thing, Ben. I'm going to beat this. The evidence is circumstantial. The messages? I can claim Royce manipulated them, edited them. The burner phone? Same thing. The poison in your system? I'll say you must have been exposed somewhere else. Royce tampering with the furnace? I had no idea he was here. I was drugged too. I didn't know." Her smile was slow, calculated. "My lawyer's an idiot, but I'll fire him, get someone better. I still have friends, people who owe me favors. I'll mount a defense that creates reasonable doubt. They recorded you in my house, planning something my boyfriend was doing without my knowledge. I could say I was horrified, that I was about to stop him when the police arrived." Martha's eyes glinted. "Juries love a beautiful woman who seems remorseful. I've been practicing." Ben's stomach churned. She might actually be right. With enough legal maneuvering, enough performance on the stand, she could plant doubt. Not much, but enough for one juror. That's all it took for a mistrial. "I came here to tell you this," Martha continued, "because I want you to prepare. This isn't over. And when I get out, and I will get out eventually, I'll get my daughter back. I'll get my life back. And you'll have nothing." Ben stood slowly, Thank you for the warning. That's it? No threats? No anger? No. Ben's smile was cold. Because you're wrong, Martha. You won't beat this. You won't get out. And you definitely won't touch Neva ever again. How can you be so sure? Because I know something you don't. Ben leaned close to the glass. You're not just fighting a murder charge. You're fighting me. And I'm very, very good at what I do. He left her there, her confident smile faltering. Because Ben had one more card to play, and it was going to destroy any chance Martha had of wriggling free. Chapter 6. The Trap Springs. Ben's FBI contact, a man named August Steele, met him at a coffee shop 2 days later. August was late 50s, gray-haired, with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much human darkness. I got your message, August said, sliding into the booth. You want to know about the cabin? Everything. August pulled out a folder. Lake Morrison Cabin 7, owned by a rental company, but they have a long-term lease with Royce Matthews. Nothing illegal about that. But when we ran financials on the rental company, he smiled. It's owned by a shell corporation, which is owned by another shell corporation, which, for layers deep, is owned by Martha McCarthy. Ben's eyes widened. She owned the cabin? Not just the cabin. The whole rental company. 10 properties around the state. It's how she was laundering money from her trust fund, making it look like legitimate business income. August tapped the folder. The trust had rules about how she could spend it. Conservative investments, no high-risk ventures. So she created a fake rental business, funneled money through it, claimed business expenses that were actually personal spending. That's fraud. That's the tip of the iceberg. August leaned back. We dug deeper. Martha's been running this scheme for 5 years. Total amount? Almost $700,000 in improperly used trust funds. The trustees never noticed because she was good at paperwork. Ben processed this. That's not just civil fraud. That's multiple federal crimes. Wire fraud, tax evasion, identity theft. She created fake identities for the shell corporations. If we charge her federally, it's 20 years minimum. And federal sentences? No parole. Why are you telling me this? August's expression was serious. Because the Bureau wants to use this case. We've been building a task force on financial fraud, especially schemes involving domestic abuse. Abusers who steal from partners, create financial dependency. Your wife's case is perfect for it. High profile, clear evidence, sympathetic victim. You want to make an example of her. We want to make sure she never sees daylight again. August pushed the folder across. But we need your cooperation. Full testimony, access to all your evidence, willingness to go public with the story. It'll be invasive. Media coverage, your life exposed. Ben thought of Neva, already traumatized. Thought of the circus trial, reporters dissecting their family. But he also thought of Martha's confident smile, her certainty that she'd beat this. Do it, Ben said. Whatever it takes. The federal indictment came down 3 weeks later. Martha McCarthy was charged with 12 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of tax evasion, 4 counts of identity theft, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted murder. The state charges were superseded by federal charges. Her new lawyer, an expensive one, paid for by friends who'd pooled resources, tried to fight it. But the evidence was overwhelming. August's team had torn apart every shell corporation, traced every dollar, documented every lie. At the preliminary hearing, the prosecutor laid out the case with clinical precision. Martha McCarthy spent 5 years systematically stealing from her own trust fund, creating an elaborate web of fake businesses to hide her theft. She used this money to support an affair with Royce Matthews. And when she feared her husband was becoming suspicious, she decided to murder him for a $2 million life insurance payout. Over 6 months, she poisoned him with arsenic and antifreeze. When that wasn't working fast enough, she planned to kill him and her 9-year-old daughter via carbon monoxide poisoning. Only the alertness of that 9-year-old girl, who discovered the plot and bravely alerted her father, prevented 2 murders. The courtroom was silent. The evidence includes recorded conversations, financial records, medical documentation of poisoning, physical evidence of attempted murder, and testimony from multiple witnesses. The defendant has shown no remorse. In fact, when questioned, She stated she never wanted her daughter and viewed both her husband and child as obstacles to her desired lifestyle. The judge denied bail again. Martha's trial date was set for 6 months out. But Royce Matthews's lawyer saw the writing on the wall. With federal charges stacked on top of state charges, with evidence that made conviction certain, the lawyer approached the prosecution with a deal. Royce would testify against Martha. Full cooperation, complete honesty, in exchange for a reduced sentence. 15 years instead of life. Ben was consulted. "It's your call," the prosecutor said. He was part of it. He deserves life. But his testimony would seal Martha's fate beyond any doubt. Ben thought about it. Royce was weak, manipulated, desperate. Not innocent. He planned murder, but less culpable than Martha. "I want him to serve at least 15 years, Ben said. "And I want him to admit everything in open court." Done. Royce Matthews's allocution was devastating. In a packed courtroom, with Martha watching from a defense table, Royce described everything. The affair, Martha's manipulation, her obsession with money, the slow decision to kill Ben, Martha's insistence that they had to do it, that she'd planned everything, that it was foolproof. She said Ben was too nice, too trusting, Royce said, voice breaking. She said he'd never see it coming. She called him predictable, said accountants didn't have imagination. Ben watched Martha's face crumble as her co-conspirator destroyed her defense. Any claim of innocence, of being victimized by Royce, evaporated as he painted her as the mastermind. "Did you want to kill Ben McCarthy?" the prosecutor asked. "No." Royce was crying. "I was scared. In debt. Martha said she'd leave me if I didn't help. She said we'd lose everything. I didn't want to do it, but I didn't want to lose her either. I know that's not an excuse. I know I'm guilty. I'm sorry. It was a good performance. Probably coached. But it was also probably true." Martha's lawyer tried damage control and cross-examination, but Royce held firm. The evidence supported everything he said. When it was over, Martha was led away. She didn't look at Ben, didn't look at anyone. She looked defeated. Chapter 7. The Unraveling. 6 months passed. Ben rebuilt his life with the focused intensity of someone who'd been given a second chance. He sold the house, too many bad memories, and bought a smaller place across town with a huge backyard where Neva could play. He underwent chelation therapy to remove the heavy metals from his system, regained weight, started running again. Neva started therapy. A child psychologist named Evangeline Stevens specialized in trauma and slowly, carefully, helped Neva process what had happened. The nightmares decreased. Her smile returned. Miles moved in temporarily, providing stability. They established routines. Family dinners, movie nights, homework at the kitchen table. Normal, boring, wonderful routines. The divorce was finalized in absentia. Martha's assets were divided with Ben, receiving the marital home's equity, custody of Neva, and reimbursement for medical expenses related to the poisoning. Martha's trust fund, what remained after legal fees and restitution, was placed in a fund for Neva, inaccessible to Martha forever. Martha's trial began in April. The prosecution's case took 3 weeks, witness after witness dismantling any possible defense. The medical examiner who'd confirmed poisoning, the FBI agents who'd traced the financial fraud, the neighbors who'd seen Royce's car at the McCarthy house at odd hours, the cell phone expert who'd verified the burner phone's communications, and Ben himself. Taking the stand was harder than he'd expected. Martha's lawyer, a sharp woman named Virginia Pena, who'd replaced Gordon, was aggressive in cross-examination. "Mr. McCarthy, isn't it true you have expertise in financial investigations?" "Yes." "So you understand how to manipulate financial records?" "I understand how to find manipulation." "That's different. But you could manipulate them yourself, couldn't you?" "Planned evidence." "I could." Ben met Virginia's eyes. "But I didn't." Every piece of evidence was verified by third parties. The FBI, independent forensic accountants, medical professionals. "I didn't plan anything. I just uncovered what was already there. You claim my client poisoned you. But the symptoms you described, fatigue, heart palpitations, could have been caused by stress. They were caused by arsenic and ethylene glycol in my bloodstream. That's not stress. That's attempted murder." Could those substances have been ingested accidentally? For 6 months? Inconsistent, increasing doses? No. Virginia tried to poke holes, but the evidence held. Ben's testimony was clinical, factual, devastating. The defense put Martha on the stand. A risky move, but they had no choice. She wore a demure blue dress, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. The picture of a wronged woman. Her testimony was a masterclass in manipulation. She'd never meant to hurt anyone. Royce had manipulated her. Yes, she'd had an affair, and she was ashamed, but she'd never wanted Ben dead. The messages were taken out of context. The financial fraud was a mistake, poor record-keeping, not intentional theft. She loved her daughter, always had. The prosecution was twisting her words. "I know I made mistakes," Martha said, dabbing her eyes. "I was weak. I let Royce manipulate me. But I never wanted my husband dead. Never. I wanted to be free of the marriage, yes, but not through murder. Through divorce. The prenup didn't matter. I just wanted out." "Then why not just divorce him?" the prosecutor asked on cross. "I was scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of losing everything. Royce said we could be together, but I needed money. So I took money from my trust foolishly. But that's fraud, not murder." "Did you poison your husband?" "No." "Did you plan to kill him with carbon monoxide?" "No." Royce talked about that, but I was horrified. I was going to stop him. That's why I was in the house when the police arrived. You were recorded discussing these plans. I was pretending to go along, trying to figure out how to get help without Royce hurting me. It was a good story. Well practiced. If Ben hadn't had the mountain of evidence, hadn't had Royce's testimony, it might have even worked on a juror or two. But the prosecutor destroyed her on cross. "Mrs. McCarthy, you claim you were manipulated by Royce Matthews. But you own the cabin where you met. You controlled the money. You created the shell corporations. Doesn't that make you the manipulator?" "I know, he told me to." "Mr. Matthews testified that you insisted on killing your husband, that you called him too nice and predictable. Do you deny saying that?" Martha's face flushed. "I don't remember." "Do you deny writing in an email draft, 'Ben's doctor ordered cardiac tests'?" They're getting concerned. "Those are your words, discussing your husband's reaction to the poison you were giving him." "I didn't write that." "We have forensic evidence that you did." "Do you deny telling Mr. Matthews that your daughter was a liability?" "I was upset." "Yes or no, Mrs. McCarthy?" Martha's composure cracked. "I was scared. I didn't know what I was saying." "You knew enough to hide a burner phone in a jewelry box, to create shell corporations, to plan your husband's death for 6 months." The prosecutor's voice was steel. "You weren't scared. You were calculating. And you almost got away with murder." The jury deliberated for 8 hours. When they returned, the verdict was read. Guilty on all counts. Martha's face went white. Her lawyer touched her arm, but she jerked away. As the judge thanked the jury, Martha's eyes found Ben in the gallery. The hatred there was pure, undiluted. If looks could kill, Ben would have dropped dead. He stared back, unflinching. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Chapter 8, The Final Judgment. The day of sentencing, the courthouse was packed. Victims' family members were allowed to speak. Impact statements that would inform the judge's decision. Ben had prepared his statement for weeks. Neva was in school. He and Miles had agreed she didn't need to be present for this. She'd seen enough. When his turn came, Ben approached the podium. Martha sat at the defense table, staring straight ahead, her face a mask. "Your Honor," Ben began, "6 months ago, I learned that my wife, the woman I'd trusted with my life, with my daughter's life, had been systematically poisoning me. That she'd planned to murder me and our 9-year-old daughter for money. That she'd felt nothing for us, ever." He paused, gathering himself. "The physical effects of the poisoning are resolving. I'll likely have long-term cardiovascular issues, but I'll survive. The psychological effects are harder. I wake up at night wondering what signs I missed. How someone could share my bed, raise my child, and simultaneously plan our deaths." Martha flinched but didn't look at him. "But the worst part is what this did to Neva. She's 9 years old. She discovered her mother's plot because she was smart and observant, qualities I'm proud of. But she had to carry that knowledge alone, scared and uncertain. She had to stage her own disappearance to get proof to me because she knew no one would believe her otherwise. What 9-year-old should have to do that? Ben's voice hardened. Martha McCarthy didn't just try to kill us. She showed us exactly how little we meant to her. She called Neva a liability. She called me predictable. We were obstacles, nothing more. And the only thing she regrets is getting caught. He looked directly at Martha for the first time. I'm not asking for leniency. I'm asking for justice. This woman tried to murder 2 people for money. She showed no remorse when caught, only anger that her plan failed. If there was any doubt about her character, her testimony at trial erased it. She lied on the stand, blamed others, took no responsibility. She's a danger to society and to her own family. Ben stepped back. Thank you. The judge nodded gravely, then turned to Martha. Does the defendant wish to speak? Virginia Pena whispered urgently to Martha, who shook her head. Then, ignoring her lawyer, Martha stood. I'd like to address the court. Virginia looked alarmed, but it was too late. Martha's voice was steady. Your Honor, I've listened to weeks of testimony painting me as a monster. I've heard my husband describe me as calculating, cold, remorseless. I've watched a jury convict me based on evidence that was, frankly, circumstantially interpreted. The judge's eyebrows rose. Mrs. McCarthy, I'm not finished. Martha's eyes blazed. Yes, I had an affair. Yes, I mismanaged my trust fund. But I did not try to kill anyone. The prosecution built a narrative that fit their evidence. But correlation isn't causation. My husband was sick, maybe from environmental factors, maybe from stress. Was I a good wife? No, but that doesn't make me a murderer. She turned to Ben. You want me to show remorse for something I didn't do? I won't. I won't apologize for crimes I didn't commit just to make this easier for you. You've already taken everything. My daughter, my money, my freedom. You've destroyed my life. Isn't that enough? Mrs. McCarthy, the judge said sharply, you were convicted by a jury of your peers based on overwhelming evidence. Evidence collected by a man with every reason to make me look guilty. Martha's voice rose. He's a forensic accountant. He knows how to build a case. What if he planted evidence? What if he manipulated records? Why is no one asking these questions? Because 12 jurors reviewed the evidence and found you guilty beyond reasonable doubt, the judge said coldly. This court will not entertain conspiracy theories. Sit down. Martha remained standing. I want it on the record that I maintain my innocence. I did not try to kill my husband. I did not plan to murder my daughter. And one day, the truth will come out. Sit down. Martha sat, chest heaving. Virginia had her head in her hands. The judge took a moment, visibly composing himself. Then he spoke. Martha McCarthy, you have been convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, multiple counts of fraud, tax evasion, and identity theft. The evidence presented at trial was not circumstantial. It was overwhelming, corroborated by multiple independent sources, and verified by forensic experts. He paused. Your testimony today, far from showing remorse, demonstrates exactly what the prosecution argued. You take no responsibility for your actions. You blame your husband, your co-conspirator, the justice system, everyone but yourself. You maintain your innocence despite a mountain of evidence, including your own recorded words. Martha's jaw tightened. The federal sentencing guidelines for these crimes call for significant prison time. Given the aggravating factors, the betrayal of family, the vulnerability of the victims, the lengthy premeditation, the complete lack of remorse, this court has no choice. The judge's voice was granite. On the federal charges, I sentence you to 45 years in federal prison, to be served consecutively. On the state charges of attempted murder, I sentence you to 25 years, to be served after the federal sentence is complete. Total sentence, 70 years, with no possibility of parole under federal guidelines. Martha's face went slack. No, you can't. You will be remanded to federal custody immediately. You will have no contact with your daughter except through supervised, court-approved channels, which, given your lack of parental rights, is unlikely. You will pay restitution in the amount of $847,000 to Mr. McCarthy for medical expenses, legal fees, and emotional damages. The gavel fell. Bailiff, remove the defendant. Martha's scream echoed through the courtroom. This is wrong. I'm innocent. Ben, tell them. Tell them I'm innocent. Someone please. The bailiffs hauled her away, her voice fading down the corridor. Ben sat motionless. 70 years. Martha was 34. She'd be over 100 before she saw freedom, if she lived that long. It was over. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Ben gave a brief statement. Justice was served today. My daughter and I can finally move forward with our lives. We're grateful to the legal system, to law enforcement, and to everyone who supported us. Miles drove them home. In the car, Ben's phone rang. Royce Matthews' lawyer. Mr. McCarthy, my client wanted me to pass along a message. He's been sentenced to 15 years. He wanted you to know he's sorry. For all of it. Ben hung up without responding. Chapter 9. A New Beginning. 1 year later, Ben stood in the backyard of their new home, watching Neva laugh as she chased fireflies. She was 10 now, taller, her smile coming more easily. Therapy had helped. Time had helped. Distance from the horror had helped. She still had nightmares sometimes. Still asked questions about why her mother had done what she did. Ben answered honestly, age-appropriately, never lying. Some people are broken inside, he'd tell her. It's not your fault. It was never about you. It was about her and her choices. Neva seemed to accept this. She was resilient like him. Miles had moved out last month, but visited weekly. He'd helped Ben establish routines, create normalcy, be the steady presence Neva needed. Ben would be forever grateful. The house was smaller but warmer. Bright colors, big windows, a swing set in the yard. Nothing like the sterile perfection Martha had insisted on. This house felt like a home. Financially, they were stable. Ben's job had welcomed him back with understanding. The restitution from Martha's dissolved trust fund had covered medical expenses and then some. The civil suit against the life insurance company, who tried to avoid paying after the attempted murder, had been settled in Ben's favor. More importantly, Ben had changed careers. Forensic accounting still, but now he consulted specifically for domestic abuse victims, helping them untangle financial abuse, find hidden assets, build cases against their abusers. He'd helped 8 people in the past year escape dangerous situations. Martha's case had become infamous. The poisoning wife, the media called her. True crime podcast dissected the case. A book deal was in the works. Ben had donated his advance to a domestic violence shelter. Martha herself had been transferred to a federal prison in Texas, far from their state. Ben had heard through the grapevine that she'd dropped the innocent act in prison, become manipulative in different ways, trying to rule her cell block, creating alliances and enemies. She tried to appeal. Every appeal had been denied. She tried to get letters to Neva. Ben had them intercepted by the court-appointed advocate. Neva had the right to read them when she turned 18 if she wanted. For now, she was a child who deserved peace. Royce Matthews was in a federal prison in Nevada. He'd apparently found religion, joined a prayer group, claimed to be reformed. Ben didn't care. 15 years was 15 years. Daddy, Neva ran up, firefly cupped in her hands. Look, I caught one. Ben crouched down, examining the glowing insect. Beautiful. Now, let it go so it can find its family. Neva opened her hands, watching the firefly drift away. Like Mom. Ben's heart clenched. What do you mean? We let her go. She can't hurt us anymore. Neva's voice was matter-of-fact. She's gone, and we're safe. We are safe. Ben pulled her close. We're safe, and we're happy, and we're going to be okay. I know. Neva hugged him tight. Because you're the smartest daddy ever. You protected us. Ben held his daughter as the sun set, fireflies dancing in the growing dark. He thought about the past year, the fear, the betrayal, the careful dismantling of Martha's plans, the way he turned her own greed and arrogance against her. Martha had called him predictable, too nice, an accountant without imagination. She'd been wrong about all of it. Ben McCarthy had been patient, strategic, methodical, qualities she'd mistaken for weakness. He'd gathered evidence, built an ironclad case, and ensured that every person involved in the plot faced consequences. He'd protected his daughter, secured justice, and rebuilt their lives. And he'd done it all without compromising his principles, without becoming the monster Martha had been. "Ready for dinner?" Miles called from the porch. "I made your favorite, lasagna." Neva laughed. Real lasagna, not poison lasagna. It was a dark joke, but Ben smiled. Humor was healing. They were allowed to laugh about it now that they were safe. As they walked inside, Neva chattering about her day, Ben glanced back at the yard. The dustbin sat in the corner of the garage, ordinary and unassuming. He'd never forgotten the moment he'd opened it, heart racing, finding the evidence that would save his life. Martha had tried to hide her crimes in the most mundane place, certain Ben would never look. She'd underestimated him. That had been her fatal mistake. Inside, the three of them sat down to dinner, Ben, Neva, and Miles. A family, not by Martha's design, but by their own resilience. They said grace, laughed about Miles burning the garlic bread, and made plans for the weekend. Normal, safe, happy. Everything Martha had tried to destroy, Ben had rebuilt better. And as Neva smiled across the table, eyes bright with life and hope, Ben knew that this, right here, right now, was his victory. Not revenge, not destruction, but survival, justice, and a fierce, unbreakable love of a father who'd moved heaven and earth to protect his child. That night, after Neva was asleep and Miles had gone home, Ben sat in his office. On his desk was a letter that had arrived that morning, forwarded by his lawyer. From Martha. It almost thrown away, but curiosity won out. "Ben, I know you won't believe me, but I've had time to think in here. 70 years gives you a lot of time to think. I was wrong, not about being innocent. I still maintain there were circumstances you don't understand. But I was wrong about you. You weren't predictable. You weren't weak. You were patient and smart, and you protected Neva in ways I never could have. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know I underestimated you. And that was my biggest mistake. I hope Neva is happy. I hope she forgets me. She deserves better than a mother like me. I'm sorry. Martha." Ben read the letter twice. Then he fed it into the shredder beside his desk. Words were easy. Actions define character. Martha had shown him exactly who she was. And Ben had shown her, and the world, exactly who he was in return. Turning off the light, Ben went upstairs. He checked on Neva, sleeping peacefully in her butterfly sheets, and smiled. They'd survived. They'd won. And they were finally, truly free. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.